Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the participants, wherever you are around the world. I am very honored to have been invited, so I thank the organizers for this invitation. And I am deeply sorry that I wasn't able to come in person for reasons that I explained to the organizers when I got the invitation. I am a professor of physics, astronomy, astrophysics, space science, and I have been doing this for a long time, for more than 30 years to be accurate. And when I got the invitation and being actually personally very enthusiastic and passionate about communicating astronomy and science to the public, I thought, yeah, this sounds interesting and relevant to me and what I usually do. Especially because, as I will explain shortly, I have a YouTube channel that I have been running for over 10 years, has more than 450 videos now. It's almost always weekly. Not all devoted to astronomy, but some content on astronomy, a lot of content on science, or most of it on science, actually. But anyway, I will get to that in a minute. And there has been, at least in the last few years, the AI, or to be more accurate, generative AI revolution. And that has affected and impacted communication in general, education more broadly, how people deal with content and information online. And I thought this sounds like an interesting topic to try to explore. I have never given a talk like this. I have never explored this idea of YouTube, AI, astronomy, science. But I thought this is an interesting topic, so let me try to get to it. So as you can see on the screen, the title that I chose is YouTube, AI, and the New Public Astronomy: Opportunities, Risks, and Responsibilities. Because indeed, what I want to share really is astronomy, YouTube, and AI are sort of the perfect combination in principle. But there are certain risks, there are certain ways where it can be done incorrectly. But there are great opportunities, and those of us who have the ability to present to the public some astronomy and science have special responsibility to make sure that we guide it and steer it in the right direction and properly. I'm trying to see how. Yeah, here we go. Okay. How do I get this to, okay, present content? I think that's how it goes. Slides. Maybe I'll just present from my side. I can see the slides, but they are extremely small, but maybe, yeah, now it goes, okay. Sorry about the slight technical glitch, but so this is the outline that I want to present for you today. A brief introduction on Google, YouTube, and generative AI as search engines or as sources of information. So this is the first idea that I want to communicate, that YouTube and generative AI have become sources of information alongside Google. So they act or are used by the public and by students as search engines or information sources for whatever content people are interested in. Then I will focus a little bit on videos and astronomy. So how do these two branches, these two content fields, videos and astronomy, how do they combine typically? And then how does AI come and contribute to this? And then in the latter stages, maybe in the last 10, 15 minutes, I will use my YouTube channel that I have mentioned briefly in the introduction as a case study, if you like, as an example. What have I learned in the last 10 years of presenting videos on science mostly, but some content on astronomy and other topics? I will review the main topics and I will tell you what I cover and how I cover it, etc. And more importantly, what are the lessons to be drawn from that specific case? And then broadly in the conclusions, what are the lessons that we need to be aware of as we try to communicate astronomy to the public in video format, with the AI now factor coming in. Google, YouTube, and generative AI chatbots have become information sources. The first idea, as I said, that we need to be aware of is people, including students, use YouTube not just as a video sharing or video platform where people go and just watch videos. They use them as search engines. They use YouTube as a search engine. And this is important to understand both as we prepare videos to upload on YouTube, how it works, what works best, how does YouTube handle the videos, and how do the users, the consumers, deal with videos, how do they find the videos, how do they view the videos, etc. Secondly, generative AI, which by and large is still dominated by ChatGPT, but now there are other programs or other tools that have come on the scene and have become more potent, such as Claude from Anthropic, Gemini from Google, to some extent, or less, Copilot from Microsoft, etc. But in general, when we say generative AI, we tend to say ChatGPT because it was the first one and still largely the dominant one, and also because it can produce content both in text, in images, and in short videos. So all of that ChatGPT can do, and for that reason, we use it sort of as a generic word for generative AI. Now that has changed the search engine sort of landscape to some extent, because even though Google still dominates, when people want to find information, they go to Google, but now increasingly they go to ChatGPT or generative AI tools and search. And as you can see on the screen, in the last year alone, there has been a 42% increase over 1 year in people just going directly to ChatGPT and searching for information and wanting to find some content. Even higher education students are using these tools, whether Google, YouTube for videos, generative AI, they use them in fluid ways. Still, 68% of the students use Google primarily, but as you can see, because the numbers add up to more than 100%, many of them use multiple tools such as Google, also YouTube, also social media, also AI chatbots. So we need to be aware of this as well. Now, what about videos and YouTube and how they have come to dominate the video landscape? First of all, it is important to realize that internet video traffic now accounts for somewhere between 65% and 82% of all internet traffic. This is pretty stunning and interesting because it means that people go to the internet to watch videos, including TikTok, etc., much more than they go to find some text or to find any other format of information. YouTube user numbers have doubled since 2022. In the last 4 years alone, these numbers of using videos, watching videos, the time spent on videos, etc., has more than doubled. There are certain, I will show you in a moment when we talk about astronomy, what are the main sources and the main platforms and the main channels of YouTube. But in general, in terms of video content, science content, etc., everybody knows about TED or TEDx, and they constitute a pioneering and leading source of videos for science and information, and they produce thousands and thousands of videos every month, and we are now at more than 265,000 videos as of last month. A little bit more information about videos and YouTube over the world. Videos one of the attractive features of videos now is not just the consuming, the user side, but also the production side of it, because almost anybody now can produce videos and upload them in a few seconds to YouTube. You can take out your mobile, record something, you record yourself, click on upload. If you have a channel or something, it literally takes less than a minute to produce a YouTube video and upload it and release it on YouTube. In education and science technology, there's a number of YouTube channels that have tens of millions of subscribers. Tens of millions of subscribers. You can see on the screen Mark Rober, the TED videos that I mentioned a moment ago, Kurzgesagt, which is one of the famous ones, Veritasium, etc. All of them have 10, 20, up to 77 million subscribers. And all of these are science and technology and education YouTube channels, which means these are very, very potent platforms for education and science dissemination. And another thing, while we talk about YouTube and video in general, before we focus on astronomy, another thing to be aware of is that there is an algorithm. Most people know about this algorithm, but don't really understand exactly, for one important reason, and that is the YouTube algorithm is not public. YouTube does not tell you exactly how it chooses videos to promote, how it shows you shows you videos when you open YouTube on your mobile or on your laptop, and how it decides that this is going to be presented to many people, to a few people, to this niche, etc. But what we know is the YouTube algorithm takes into account not only your viewing habits, but also what the video itself carries in terms of meta information, such as, for example, the keywords. It's very important when you release a YouTube video that you put in all the right tags, all the right keywords. It is very important that you give it a good thumbnail, that you put a good image that sort of immediately conveys what this video is going to say, how you describe it in the description box, how you link to certain things, etc. All of this is very important, so the algorithm can make the night and day difference between a good YouTube video being seen and disseminated to a large audience, or a good video which is completely ignored and forgotten and not shown to most people. What about videos and astronomy? First of all, it is not surprising to you and not a secret that astronomy is particularly suited for video outreach. Why? Because it is a science that is highly visual, because it is beautiful, because the universe is fascinating, because there are many phenomena and events that happen all the time, celestial events, discoveries that happen. I teach astronomy almost every semester. Sometimes I teach astrophysics, sometimes space science, sometimes more basic physics. And whenever I teach astronomy or astrophysics, I tell the students, you should be aware and happy that not a week passes by that either there is a celestial event, there is a conjunction between two planets, there is some partial eclipse somewhere, there is something that is happening in the sky, or that there is a discovery that you should be aware of, or there is a mission, a space mission going to the moon. For example, we had Artemis recently, or there's going to be a launch by SpaceX, and this is interesting, and this is happening. There are astronauts going to the space station, etc., etc. So all of this lends itself perfectly to YouTube videos. In fact, a search on Google just a few years ago, because I went back and I tried to do the search and I wasn't able to do recently. I don't know, because maybe Google has changed the search format. But at least a couple of years ago, when I did a search like this, I found that if you look for astronomy videos on YouTube, you can specify in a Google search, what do you want to look for? And if I say astronomy videos, but find me how many astronomy videos there are only on YouTube, and it found me several million results. And in fact, it told me that every month there's more than 100,000 new videos on astronomy that are uploaded to YouTube. So that tells you how popular this is and how it goes. Now, what are the major English language? I will show you the Arabic language ones for my part of the world in a minute. But what are the major English language astronomy / space YouTube channels? As of this month, May 2026, you can see here, there's no need to read all of them or to be knowledgeable about any specific ones. But the three main ideas I want to convey is, one, they all have roughly 1 million subscribers. So that shows you that there are at least 10, perhaps several tens, of YouTube / space channels, astronomy / space YouTube channels that have more than 1 million or roughly 1 million subscribers. They tend to have tens, if not hundreds of millions of total views, and they tend to range in how many years they have been up there, typically about 10 years long. The institutional channels, those that belong to NASA, ESA, the European Space Agency, ESO, the European Space Observatory, tend to be stronger. At least NASA, of course, dwarfs everybody else. It has about 13 million subscribers, and total number of views is in the billions. So this just gives you an idea of how big this field is. Astronomy videos on YouTube. In the Arabic language, we also see not as many such big channels, but at least 4 or 5 channels. One of them is my own, which I'll come back to a little bit later. You can see it listed third here in the table. And one of the differences is that most of these channels are not specifically devoted to astronomy. They tend to be either science or mostly science, or they tend to be astronomy and science plus something, such as some philosophical ideas, some cultural ideas, some educational content. But at least these 4 that I'm showing here on screen in Arabic have some majority scientific content, some maybe minor content in astronomy, and they tend to be a little bit broader in scope. They have, as you can see, a number of subscribers that ranges between 500,000 to several millions. At Dahih, this is from Egyptian fellow who has been doing videos for over 10 years, was doing it from Egypt, then moved to Qatar, etc. Is very well known in the Arab world because he is very humorous and uses a lot of storytelling. He tells all kinds of stories, and most of them tend to be related to science broadly, but he takes sort of a different approach and a different angle. He has 14 million subscribers, total number of views is in the billions. He is a phenomenon in himself. The ecosystem of astronomy videos is now mature enough that astronomy channels can reach audiences comparable to medium-sized TV programs. So that's another very important conclusion we draw from all this. That is, videos on the internet, primarily YouTube, related to astronomy can rival medium-sized TV programs. So this is important. Independent creators now easily rival science magazines in influence. So somebody who produces videos on a weekly basis or something is as impactful as a science magazine. And that's also an important thing to keep in mind. Now, I've already mentioned some of the science channels and astronomy channels, so let me skip on this so that I don't run out of time. AI, now, what about AI and AI's impact? AI is now helping create astronomy videos, either entirely, an entire video created by AI, and I will say in a moment how good, or partially, mostly as hybrid format rather than full documentaries. In other words, usually you get some kind of a mixture. a human person, maybe some real images, maybe some AI content, something like that. This is what you usually get. And the general situation is fully AI generated astronomy channels. So now there are some channels that are completely AI generated and are devoted to astronomy, but they tend to be of low quality. I suspect this will not last. This will improve very fast. So get ready to see full YouTube video channels entirely created by AI. There are some human-made astronomy videos with AI visuals. This is very common, including my own channel. Now, I almost every week when I release a video, I include some illustrations, whatever the topic, that are generated by ChatGPT or Gemini, my two tools that I use rather consistently. Scientifically accurate AI simulations are still limited. Very often you see, and you can, after a little bit of experience, you can tell that some images or videos have been generated by AI. And if you pay close attention, most of the time you can see that there is some scientific inaccuracy there. The rotation is not correct, the motion is not correct, the colors are not correct, etc. And I'll come back to the color issue in a moment. AI is a major visual production tool for astronomy communication today, but the creators are still so far largely in charge. It's not completely run by AI. The main ways that AI is being used for astronomy videos is, first of all, visuals. So, as I said, even I now can and do use AI to produce some illustrations, some visuals, but I use them as illustrations. They are added to the content that I produce, that I present, speaking on screen to people. But every half a minute or something, I put an image to illustrate what I'm trying to explain, etc. There's a number of tools that are available that can help do this, both as images and as videos, as video clips that you can integrate here and there. AI animation of static astronomy images. You can now take an image and add some AI effects. So camera motion, for example, zoom effect, generate some parallax, animate telescope imagery. So you can do some AI effects to still images. So this is, and still, very useful. And then there is AI in production. So for example, you can do dubbing. AI can produce, and I have done, or at least my team has done, my entire talk, which can typically goes for 15, 20 minutes, take my entire speech, my entire presentation, and have the AI dub it in English or in another language. And then people can just switch and they can listen to me in another language, speaking in some language when my content is almost always in Arabic. So this broadens the reach, because even if I produce my content in Arabic or in English or in French or whatever language, very soon now you can dub it into some languages, not all, but very soon it will be very easy to just switch immediately to another language and listen to the presenter speak in another language. There is also subtitling. This has existed for a while now, that whatever I speak can appear as subtitles in a number of other languages. So I would still be speaking in the original language that I produced, but it can appear in subtitles in another language so people can use. Plus, in addition, AI can help me produce thumbnails, and we do this now almost consistently. We have done it for months, if not for several years, that all the thumbnails that we produce for our videos are made by AI. There's some music that has been produced by AI that can be used. And there are some ideas for brainstorming. And I personally do that all the time. I go to ChatGPT or Gemini and say, I have this idea. Can you please help me sort of outline it a little bit, or find me some other examples, or what other episodes or what other videos I could do along the same lines so I can turn this idea into a mini series or something like that. Important issues with AI to be aware of is there is a risk of confusion. What confusion? Well, it's very easy for people who don't know much astronomy, including students for a while. When I teach astronomy, it takes them a long time to learn to distinguish between real images and artistic impressions, artistic renditions, AI generated illustrations, simulations that people have made. So I teach the students, but this is teaching in the classroom and it takes some time to how to tell if this is a real image, if this is not a real image, if it is real but the colors have been changed, whether the colors have some meaning or not. They represent maybe temperature scale or density scale or motion, forward, backward, etc. Or these are just colors just for the sake of coloring, or this is not true, or this is not real but scientifically accurate, or this is not real and scientifically inaccurate. All of this now is at risk because the AI, as I said, and a lot of people just consume such content and don't have the background to be able to distinguish. So there's a risk, a big risk there. And there is blurring of the line between reality and imagination. As I said, people cannot tell if was this really obtained from space. And I have had people actually challenge me on real images or real videos that have been taken by, let's say, astronauts in the space station or on Artemis, etc. And they say, this is fake. Look, this cannot be true. And so people now cannot tell because they have been fooled so many times. They cannot tell when this is really true and then they reject it, or when this is really fake and then they accept it. So that's the risk with the AI now, and it is part of the responsibilities that I put in the subtitle of my talk, that those of us who have this knowledge have to do an important job in distinguishing all of that. I'm going to skip on this. This is a recent paper, an important paper in 2025 that tried to explain to people how to do all of this combining and to do it right. I mean, in fact, even the title of the paper is very telling: Method and Tools to Collect, Process, and Publish Raw and AI-Enhanced Astronomical Observations on YouTube. And then in December, just to illustrate a real case of risk and dangerous risk, just 5 months ago, 2025, I assume many of you will know or have heard of the Harvard astronomer A.V. Loeb, who is famous because he believes that at least some, if not all three, of the recent interstellar comets that have crossed the solar system and have come out, starting with the famous Oumuamua, and then there was Borisov, and then more recently last year, 3I Atlas. He believes that these are actually alien-made spacecrafts that have passed and not comets. But he published a blog pointing to some videos that appeared on YouTube, completely artificially producing him speaking on screen, completely fake, not him. These are deep fakes, where he's speaking on the screen and he's telling people some stuff that he never said, doesn't believe, etc. So somebody took him, made him say some things, published it on YouTube, and even worse than that, there was at least one news outlet that took that video and took it to be true, to be from a Harvard astronomer, and said, look, there's a Harvard astronomer that says XY, and never realized that that's completely fake. So that's one of the dangers that we have to be careful about. Now, as I said, I will take maybe 5-10 minutes to give you an example about my YouTube channel and how it can give us some clues, maybe some lessons as to what happens when we try to do this. The reason why I'm using it is not because it's from me, is because this has existed for 10.5 years. It's called Ta'ammal Ma'i in Arabic. For those of you who speak Arabic in the audience, reflect with me. It is scientific in a broad sense, educational mostly or mainly, and addresses some cultural topics. You can see now, just very brief information, I have now more than 450 videos on that channel, altogether 36 million views and 571,000 subscribers. So it's one of the main sort of science education channels in the Arab world and Arabic language, and it has some some substantial astronomy content. So let me tell you briefly what are the categories, what are the topics that I tend to address. So in astronomy and cosmology, you can see there's cosmology, first of all, the current cosmology crisis, the so-called Hubble tension, the multiverse, topics like this. Exoplanets and astrobiology, this is one of the popular topics because people are fascinated about other planets, other Earths, is there life elsewhere, things like that. Black holes, of course, people are always fascinated with black holes, dark matter, dark energy, and quote, exotic cosmic content. People are always fascinated with anything exotic, including dark matter, dark energy, black holes, etc. And then cosmic explosions, gamma ray bursts happens to be my specialty in research. I do gamma ray burst research, and now more recently fast radio burst, things like this that are fascinating because people say, wow, there's this big explosion, huge amounts of energy in just a fraction of a second. This category is important because it fuels curiosity and it connects science with big philosophical questions. Are we alone in the universe? How did the universe evolve? What is going to become in the future? Things like that. Now, some more topics, some more categories. Science and society. So, for example, AI and education is a very popular topic. Pseudoscience, which I want to address as frequently as I can because I think it's very important and educational, and we have seen pseudoscience grow way too fast and way too dangerously in recent years. I can say more about this in the Q&A if you like. Scientific literacy more generally, science misconceptions, conspiracy theories about vaccines and whatnot. These often generate more comments and discussion. People always react to these topics because it touches their beliefs. It touches what they think, how they act, how they live, what they do in life, and so they tend to react. So if you want to excite people and get more comments to your videos, pick one of these topics. Then there is science and culture, what I call science sort of broad or connected to other areas, such as evolution, because it relates to religion or religious views. This category often produces high engagement. People will ask more questions, people will debate, people will reject, etc., more engagement. And then there are sort of pure technology topics, which have become more and more popular. AI, 5G technology, things like this, people do want to watch. What are some of the important lessons that I have drawn from my engagement with through videos with the public, through videos on YouTube in the last 10 years or more? Views and engagement, as I mentioned a moment ago, tend to be highest for big cosmic questions. People love cosmology topics, multiverse, as I said, expansion of the universe, Hubble tension, acceleration of the universe, etc. Extraterrestrial life, so exoplanets, astrobiology, life elsewhere, etc. And then exotic and fascinating phenomena. People also like, quote, controversial science topics, evolution, pseudoscience, beliefs and misconceptions, paranormal. People love these things. And then technology topics, AI, future of humanity, etc. And these can be very important and useful for us educators because it gives us a doorway to addressing and raising scientific literacy and correcting misconceptions. So this is important because it will draw people in and it will lead to more engagement. Another lesson that I learned is pure science produces moderate views, sometimes little views. People don't want just pure science. So I will never produce a video titled something like the physics of electromagnetic waves because people will not engage with that. They are not interested in the physics of electromagnetic waves, even though it can be fascinating. I can give all kinds of examples, etc. Visible light, non-visible light. I could really explain and show stuff to people. What does infrared mean? Your body is radiating infrared as we speak, etc. People are not interested in that. They are more interested in topics like, are we alone in the universe? So that's an interesting aspect to keep in mind. Successful science communication, since this conference is about communicating astronomy with the public, successful science communication uses science with curiosity and meaning. It has to mean something to people. They have to relate to it somehow. Questions outperform explanations. Always present content in the form of a question. Will AI find life in the cosmos? This was actually an exact title of one recent video that I put on YouTube a few months ago. Will AI find life in the cosmos? Is it a waste to spend millions on space projects? What are the best queuing strategies? If you go and find queues, how do you determine or how do you design queuing that will be more efficient? If you ask it in the form of a question, people will be more interested. And I have only a few minutes left, so let me conclude with two slides. Astronomy content has a global audience and is uniquely suited for the video YouTube format. So this is important, again, since we are talking about communicating astronomy with the public. Video and YouTube are a prime platform for communicating astronomy with the public. YouTube is both a viewing platform and a search engine. Very important to realize this. A lot of people, a lot of students even, if they want to understand the concept, if they want sometimes even to find the solution to even a physics problem, they will go to YouTube and type a prompt and say, find me the explanation or the solution to da 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 da. So, and they want to see it visually. They want to see either something explaining to them step by step, or some generated content that is showing them visually how things go. And in order to reach that audience, it is important to take into account the keywords and the algorithmic disposition of YouTube, such as catchy titles, nice thumbs, keywords, the description in the box, etc. These are very, very key to making the difference between a video that will have a large audience or a video that will not reach many people. AI now has come onto the scene and can provide tools. I mentioned dubbing and subtitling of videos in several languages. This is an extraordinarily useful tool because it will mean very soon, if not already, that any video produced by anybody in any language anywhere can be viewed and actually listened to in other languages by other people around the world. So this is extraordinarily positive. AI is also helping create channels that churn out bad content, so we have to be very careful, including deceptive deepfake impersonation cases, such as the case of AV Loeb that I mentioned earlier. And then a few more concluding ideas. There is a large audience and appetite for short or very short videos. This is what I call the TikTok effect. People don't want to watch, even though my videos, I mentioned, typically are 15 to 20 minutes long. And that actually is the wrong format, I have found. In fact, the average viewing this is averaging over more than 400 videos on my channel, is only about 7 to 8 minutes. And that's only because I have an audience that knows me, wants to listen to me a little bit more. And even then, on average, they listen to and watch for only 7 or 8 minutes. Now, the two formats that have really grown and exploded are 1 minute or less, definitely less than 3 minutes, very short, typically like 1 minute. That's what people want to watch. The reels, the shorts, what YouTube calls shorts, etc. And then the very long sort of podcast formats, which surprisingly have become very popular in the last few years, where people are together, there's two people, there's an interview or somebody speaking to the screen, and they can be an hour long, 2 hours long. I know of some videos of an interview that has received now more than 150 million views in Arabic by two people talking for 2.5 hours. Imagine that. 2.5 hours has been watched for more than 150 million views, maybe not 150 million people, because sometimes people come back and watch again and again. But typically, if it is 150 million views, it means at least 50 million, 100 million separate people. And then last but not least, it is important to make a mention of students and youngsters who can help on this because they have a lot of energy, they have some time to spend, and they can be very helpful in producing such content for astronomy, for science, etc. So we don't have to do everything ourselves. We, the professors or the specialists in the field, we can involve students and engage them, and they can help, and they can be extremely helpful. So that's what I wanted to present to you today. Thank you so much for the attention. I'm happy to address any questions if you have.
Being here with us and for sharing all these information. Very informative talk and useful talk for the audience. And also thank you for finishing on time. Take some questions. First, I'll take questions online. Then, first question from Easter. She says, "You say that there will be soon be fully AI generated channels that will have high quality. Do you expect the audience to like these as much as they like
I didn't hear almost anything. I think the connection is not good and there seems to be some echo. If somebody can type the question quickly, it would be much better. But I could hear some voice speaking, but really couldn't identify almost any word.
maybe the
It's better
online.
now. Go ahead. It's better
Okay,
now.
I'll read it again for you.
Yeah, much better.
We have a question from Easter. She says, "You say that there will soon be fully AI generated channels that
Mhm.
will have high quality. Do you expect the audience to like these as much as they like human made content?"
Yeah, so that's a good question. I said there are already some astronomy channels, entire channels, completely AI produced, but they tend to be of very low quality, not very well produced, not just not very well produced, but not accurate scientifically. AI has a tendency, for those of you who have used AI, especially for graphics, has a tendency to really blunder, to really make stupid mistakes, sometimes glaring and sometimes a little bit more subtle. So one has to be very, very, very careful. I do this on a weekly basis. Typically, for any video that I produce any week, I ask the AIs to produce somewhere between 5 and 10 illustrations for one aspect of the episode or another, and it takes me typically an hour to 2 hours just to get 5 to 10 accurate and clear images produced by the AI for what I really need. Uh, Now, the problem is, yes, AI generated content, images, and videos tend to be very attractive. They tend to be very grabbing, attention grabbing. They tend to be sometimes a little bit humorous, etc. And I suspect that people will be drawn to them. Now, and that's where the challenge lies. The challenge is really for us to educate people how to identify what is correct and what is not correct. There is no issue with people watching videos for just for fun, for humor, and watch them and laugh. But the danger is when they cannot tell the difference between this is accurate and this is not accurate. This is funny, but not to be trusted, not to be taken seriously. So I think there's going to be an additional a challenge, that these channels and these videos are going to be so attractive that they will draw people in, and people will tend to believe them, and it will be another battle for us to try to explain to people that's not correct, be careful, this and that.
Thank you so much. We can take another question from here.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, this is Laszlo Kish. You can find me on YouTube as Laszlo Kish, the astronomer. I have my own YouTube channel with 5 million views and an average view time of 40 minutes per video. So I'm in the long video business. A few comments I could make is that, for example, I tend to record my university teaching courses, and some of them are very popular. I live in the Hungarian speaking universe of 10 million people, so reaching 150,000 views with the cosmology related university course is quite successful, I think. And on a question, or sort of a question about the AI, I started to play with AI, producing videos using professional articles. I'm also responsible for the institutional communication of my observatory, and we started some pilot projects of feeding various AI tools with A&A papers or FJ papers, and then producing a 3-minute video which explains the content. And the first initial results are, of course, there were some inaccuracies, but I think that is a promising direction. One may think about how to use AI in summarizing our own research results.
Thank you and congratulations for your successful video production, video tube videos and work. Yeah, I think there is a difference between communicating astronomy with the public, producing content that not students and not experts are going to want to watch and consume, and between producing a little bit higher level educational, like for university students, course content, papers that are summarized in video form by AI in 3 minutes, things like that. So those are two different projects and two different directions. Here I took the conference to mean communicating with the general public. It says communicating astronomy with the general public. Um, so yeah, I do have some activity on the lectures that I do and so on for the students, and they are in the university platform, content, etc. But with the public, I think it's a different dynamic. So I just wanted to make that distinction.
Thank you so much, Nidhal. Once again, we can thank the speaker for being here with us. There are other questions, but sadly we cannot take all the questions. You can answer them directly online through the Q&A section. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.